White House is trying to cool off a heated controversy over a new Obama administration rule. That rule requires all employers, including religious institutions, to cover birth control as part of their employee health insurance.
Some Roman Catholic groups are threatening lawsuits over the policy, saying it interferes with religious freedom. White House Press Secretary Jay Carney responded on Tuesday.
We're going to continue to work with religious groups to try to allay their concerns as we implement a policy that provides this coverage to women across the country.
Let's bring in Washington Post columnist Michael Gerson. He's a former speechwriter for President George W. Bush. And here in our studio, faith and religion contributor, Father Edward Beck. Join us. Thank you both. Michael Gerson, we'd like to start with you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The administration seems to suggest that they are willing to work out a compromise. Is this possible?
Well, you know, it's difficult to compromise on this kind of issue. It's hard to grant half of a constitutional right. The question here is whether religious institutions will be forced to buy an insurance product that violates their conscience, and that either happens or it doesn't happen. There might be some things that you can do around it. But the administration is not conceding the central point here. They believe that churches have religious liberty rights, but they think that religious institutions like hospitals and charities and universities should be treated under federal law like a 7-Eleven or an Apple store. And I think that that's resented by these institutions themselves. And it's really a kind of binary choice they have here, whether to retreat or not.
Michael, why do you think this is an ideological wrecking ball?
Well, you know, it represents, in a lot of ways, an important political philosophic debate, not a debate about contraception. It's how you view liberalism. I mean, classical liberalism in our past was the protection of individuals and groups and their rights not to reflect the majority views. Modern liberalism, in this sense, seems to be the imposition of liberal values on institutions that are regarded as backwards. I think that that's the opposite of pluralism, and it's you know, provoked a understandable and natural reaction among not just Catholics, but I think Protestants and others who care about religious liberty.
Father Beck, in reality, this is something that's already being dealt with. There are 28 states which require organizations to offer prescription coverage that would cover contraception, and only 8 of those would exempt Catholic hospitals and universities. So based on how it's played out there, how do you believe it should play out nationally?
But in those states, there have been conscience clauses where those universities, those hospitals can get around it.
Is that enough then? Would that be a compromise that would work?
I think if there was a conscience clause put into this, yes, and that they could be exempt, it definitely would work. Something that's not getting discussed, however, is this Plan B, the morning after pill. Catholics who are coming to me are saying, well, Father, is this abortion, though? So because you have a fertilized egg, it's also going to have to cover that. It's being called this contraception controversy, but really this is after conception, some are saying, and less is getting spoken about that, but that is really getting the ire of Catholics up.
But the latest survey seems to suggest that most Catholics favor contraception. Doesn't that play a role in this decision?
Well, you know, Gail, in the Catholic Church, it doesn't matter. Majority doesn't rule, as sometimes in civil law it doesn't rule. I mean, in the 1960s, most people thought that integration was a good thing. And we had to go against popular opinion for what we believed to be true. The Catholic Church is doing the same thing with this issue. It's not going to cave just because it's not popular.
That integration is a good thing? Did you mean to say integration?
No, in the 60s, some people would say segregation. I'm sorry, I meant segregation.
Wait, rewind, okay.
I meant segregation.
Okay.
You know, sometimes you have to go against the popular opinion.
Okay, all right.
I strongly agree with that point, by the way. If religious liberty means the right to reflect the majority, religious liberty doesn't mean anything. You know, traditionally this is the right of Catholic institutions and religious institutions to remain to retain their identity. And it's interesting that the Supreme Court in the Hosea Tabor decision just in January asserted a broad religious autonomy right when it comes to hiring. The administration could have used that as an excuse and said, look, the Supreme Court has a strong ruling here, a 9-0 decision. We can back off from this, but they chose actually to be very aggressive on this issue in ways that I don't quite understand.
And why I think there's going to be a compromise is because we know President Obama needs the Catholic vote. I mean, he lost Catholic men in the last election. He can't afford in these swing states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, to come that close or lose the Catholic vote. And there are Catholics even who think contraception should be covered here who don't like the fact that it's being demanded of the church.
Well, the Obama administration is sending signals that they want to see a way out of this. They want to see some kind of alternative way in terms of offering a different kind of health insurance.
But Charlie, why do it now anyway? It's such a crucial time. I can't get an answer as to why this was the time when this was brought up. Wait till after the election, at least.
That's what a lot of political folks are definitely talking about these days.
It doesn't make sense, you know?
We're going to have to leave it there. Father Beck,
continued.
Michael Gerson, good to have both of you with us.